Okay, I'm going to talk on how to work with emotions in myofascial energetic release sessions, how I do it and how I teach it. First thing to understand is that the body is emotional. Anatomy is emotional. So emotions live and are generated within the body and the mind together. But they live in the tissues of the body. And when you're doing this type of deep body work that I practice and teach, called myofascial energetic release, we trigger emotions. Because in myofascial energetic release, I use deep touch throughout the body. I work with breath, deep connected breath, and I work with movement in the form of unwinding. So these three elements, touch being the foundation, bring up feelings as I release the holding patterns. The holding patterns in the body, the chronic holding patterns that live in the muscles and the fascia, are holding back negative feelings, mostly holding back anger, holding back fear, holding back sadness, holding back despair and disappointment and many other feelings. So the holding that we are connecting with in this deep body work is a holding that is holding against the expression and the connection to feelings. So when we do this deep work, having people breathe and move, and also verbally connect with people, we start to release and open up the tissues of the body, but also we release and open up and bring awareness to the emotional holding pattern that lives in the body. Now, in the work that I teach, I also work with 27 zones of the body that hold different fears. For instance, the fear of making a mistake in the hands, or the fear of death in the knees, the fear of change in the knees, the fear of being oneself in the feet, the fear of taking action in the lower legs, the fear of being left behind in the upper legs, and so on throughout the body. So I'm working to release and to bring awareness to these fears that live in the body, these 27 zones of fear. But more than just the fears, there's a whole rainbow of emotions that get stuck in our unconscious mind, but also in the body in an unconscious way. Yeah, a pattern of holding against feelings. So as we open up the fascial system with our hands, and as we have people breathe and move, I bring emotional awareness and emotional release into the session. It's a very important part of the session. Yeah, Peter Levine, a revolutionary teacher of working with trauma, talks about how trauma release is a somatic experience, is a body-oriented experience that comes through the body in terms of shaking, in terms of movement, yeah, and sometimes emotional awareness and release. And so his understanding is that we go into fight, flight, or freeze. So when we're threatened emotionally, when we're abused emotionally as children, or we are abused sexually, or we're abused physically, 1 out of every 4 children are sexually abused, and 1 out of every 4 children are physically abused, and everybody is emotionally abused. So that creates trauma. Now in that, when you're abused, your instinct is to run or to fight. But as children, you're too small to run and too small to really put up a fight. So what we do is we freeze. And what we freeze on is all that activated energy that has nowhere to go. It's like putting one foot on the accelerator and another foot on the brake. You have all this energy and then you just shut it down and it goes deep into the body and stores in the tissues of the body. Now, as we work, we start to activate this energy. We start to move this energy through the body. And as it moves through the body, I, as a practitioner of myofascial energetic release, I start to talk to it. I acknowledge it. That's the first thing. I acknowledge it. If I see tear coming into somebody's eyes, or I see their nose turning red and their lips quivering, I will say, tears are coming or sadness is coming. Just let it happen. So the first thing you have to do is acknowledge emotions as they come up and catch them early. So that's one of the things that I teach and work with. And then support people's spontaneous behavior, meaning their movement, their breath changes. And when I say support it, you support it with your hands, but you also support it verbally. Now, a huge percentage of people, they say 50% of people suffer from chronic pain at any given time. So it's the biggest epidemic that people suffer from. Now, chronic pain, as I understand it and teach it and work with it, is caused by emotional holding patterns. So as the emotions hold, they contract tightly the fascia. Fascia is very sensory. It is the most sensory system in the body besides the nervous system. It is very, very sensory. So at any given time when that happens, when the holding back of emotion and the fascia contracts like that, it pushes on pain-sensitive nerves called nociceptors. And those nociceptors then register as pain. But the underlying cause, most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, is an emotional holding pattern that causes the physical holding pattern, and that physical holding pattern causes chronic pain. Just by bringing that awareness to people that their emotional holding patterns are causing their low back pain or their knee pain or their headaches, already the healing starts. And by continually bringing them into the awareness of that connection, they start to let go of the fascia and open themselves up. So this is a very important part of the work, to bring emotional education, emotional awareness of what's happening in the body. Now, I just heard a statistic that blew my mind, which was that 86% of people that are in chronic pain have severe depression. So that's a major, major fact. And so as we start to release their chronic pain, we also start to bring them out of this depression, which is also the repression of so many emotions and the deadness that one feels when one is stuck in a freeze. So as we start to open the body up, we also are not just opening the body, we're opening the emotions, we're opening the psychological holding patterns, and we're opening the person up to connection to something bigger than themselves. So, thank you.